A sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seed fell along the road, and the birds came and devoured them. Others fell on rocks, where they had no much soil, and immediately they sprang up, since they had no depth of soil. But when the sun rose, they were scorched. And since they had no root, they withered away. Others fell on thorns, and the thorns rose up and choked them. Others fell on good soil and gave fruit, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30-fold. He who has ears, let him hear. Good morning. Welcome to a short biblical reflection on the Gospel reading from the Gospel according to Matthew chapter 13, verses 1 up to 23. I have entitled it Receiving God's Word. It is the Gospel reading for the 15th Sunday in Ordinary Time, Year A. I have just read the parable itself, which commonly is called the parable of the sower. However, if we call it like this, we would rather focus on the action of sowing, while rather the emphasis is on receiving God's word. Therefore, I entitle it respectively. There are four kinds of soil, and there is repeated also the same pattern. I therefore translated in the same way. However, the first instance is different, fell along the road, and that expression is repeated also in the explanation. I prefer to keep it like this because it will recall us also another story of the two blind men sitting along the road in the chapter 20 of the Gospel of Matthew. I will return it at the end of my exposition. Concerning other kinds of soil, always is used the same preposition translated here as on. Fell on rocks, fell on thorns, fell on good soil. And then also if we pay attention to some expressions, this time I'm using basing on a Revised Standard Version with some touches which I did. The language is rather expressing the violence. For example, in verse 4, the birds came and devoured them, and then in the explanation, the evil one comes and snatches away. And then concerning the thorns, they choke them, so those seeds which were sown, and repeated is also in explanation, choke the word. We could also translate it even more expressively, that suffocated those seeds, because also I translated in verse 7 a little bit differently, that the thorns rose up and choked them, because like physically they rose up, they were down, they rose up, and then they took this action to choke, to suffocate the seeds. And only the last fourth kind of soil is fruitful, and I also translated gave fruit, because this word to give is repeated later. Let me even start now with this, because the emphasis is immediately taken in verses 11 and 12. To you it has been given to know the mysteries of the kingdom, but to them it has not been given. For to him who has will be given, and he will have abundance. But from him who has not, even what he has will be taken away. In particular, the last expression sentence is quite strange, but from him who has not, even what he has will be taken away. It is difficult at the first sight to understand. If someone has not, how can be taken something if he has nothing? It implies that in advance, like concerning us, in nature is built up this potentiality that we can believe in God, we can recognize God, but there is now this need of this interaction. We need to interact with the process of sowing the word in order that it can spring up and grow and finally produce the fruit, so give the fruit. So it's given to us, and then we have to give it back in the form of fruits. And in the whole text, as I have also highlighted some expressions, in particular the verb and the word hear, the verb to hear and the hear are repeating. This verb to hear is repeated so many times and is also linked to understanding. Like, for example, the parable itself ends, "He who has ears, let him hear." So it's not only enough to have ears, but it is necessary also to use them in order to be able to hear what is said, what is pronounced to us. And then Jesus, giving the reason why he speaks in parables, he says it in somehow enigmatic way, because seeing they will not see, hearing they will not hear, nor do they understand. And then quotes the words from the prophets, because in fact the display on words comes from the prophetical book. You shall indeed hear, but never understand. You shall indeed see, but never perceive. And then, contrary to others who are unable to hear because their heart has grown dull, so became like stone, Jesus expresses this blessing towards the disciples. But happy are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. And then consequently makes the statement that many prophets and righteous men longed to see what you see and did not see, and to hear what you hear and did not hear. Uh, and therefore, in the explanation, consequently, yet also referring to the third kind of word, which summarizes all these negative aspects, the word which is chalk, that became unfruitful. Because in all these actions, we can also see the initiative and action of the evil one. Explicitly in the first case, the evil one comes and snatches it away, but also could be others. And in fact, we can also link it to chapter 11, verse 12, when we read, "When the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven has suffered violence, and men of violence take it by force." Taken by force should not be understood as entering into it or making it a property that becoming part of this kingdom, but doing the violence against the kingdom, like stealing, snatching away, like this word which is sown is snatched away by the evil one. And now going back to this chapter 20, when we have the healing of the two blind men, in that chapter, the other people, those who oppose Jesus, even if they see physically, they are blind because they didn't recognize him. And similarly, even the disciples have difficulty to recognize him. Why those two blind men sitting along the road, like this seat now is so along the road, being blind physically, they are able to recognize the identity of Jesus because they are calling him Jesus, Son of David. Have pity on us, have mercy on us. I would like to wish you a nice day, a nice reflection on this gospel reading. God bless you.